The galaxy had spent 300 years trying to perfect life. Then one human volunteer broke every rule they thought they understood. The lights of Research Station Helios 9 glowed like a ring of frozen stars above the gas giant Naxxar. From a distance, the station looked peaceful, almost beautiful. Up close, it felt more like a machine built to challenge the laws of nature. Thousands of silver panels reflected the pale blue light of the planet below. Massive observation windows stretched along the outer hull. Cargo vessels drifted silently around docking spires. Every corridor hummed with controlled energy. Every system operated according to precise calculations. Every outcome was supposed to be predictable. Tonight was different. Tonight, the entire galaxy was watching. Ethan Carter sat alone in Preparation Chamber 7. The room was cold enough to raise goosebumps on his arms despite the climate controls built into his gray station uniform. A soft blue light pulsed along the ceiling. Medical scanners moved silently around him, projecting streams of data across transparent displays. His heart rate appeared above his head. 72 beats per minute. Oxygen saturation normal. Neural activity stable. The machine seemed almost disappointed by how ordinary he was. Ethan leaned back in the metal chair and stared through the observation glass. Beyond it, dozens of alien scientists worked at glowing consoles. Some belonged to species with crystalline skin. Others had luminous eyes or metallic implants woven into their biology. All of them were studying him. Not because he was famous. Not because he was powerful. Because he had agreed to do something no intelligent being had ever survived. A digital countdown hovered in the center of the room. 2 hours until procedure. Across the station, reporters filled observation decks. Universities paused lectures. Research institutes delayed conferences. Even planetary governments had representatives monitoring the broadcast. More than 11 billion viewers were expected to watch the experiment live. Ethan shook his head and laughed quietly. No pressure. The chamber door slid open with a soft hiss. Dr. Vera Solis stepped inside, carrying a transparent tablet filled with scrolling data. Even after months of working together, Ethan still found her appearance striking. Her skin shimmered with a faint turquoise glow beneath the lights. Silver patterns moved subtly along her forearms like flowing circuitry. Her eyes reflected information faster than most computers could process. "Your stress levels remain lower than projected," she said. Ethan smiled. "You keep saying that like it's a bad thing." Vera studied him carefully. Most subjects facing a 99.997% mortality probability exhibit elevated anxiety. Most subjects probably didn't volunteer. For a moment, she said nothing. Her species valued logic above almost everything else. Human behavior often confused her, especially Ethan's. "You understand there is still time to cancel participation," she said. "Nobody would blame you." Ethan looked through the glass again. Beyond the observation deck, stars stretched endlessly across the darkness. Somewhere among them was Earth, a tiny blue world compared to the civilizations surrounding it. 300 years, he said quietly. 300 years of alien science trying to create a perfect adaptive fluid. Vera nodded. Nanofluid represents the greatest achievement in biomedical engineering, and nobody knows why humans react differently to it. Correct. Ethan stood and walked toward the observation window. The station reflected in the glass. So did his own face. Ordinary. Human. Temporary. Then maybe it's time somebody found out. The scientist watched him carefully. "You believe survival is possible." Ethan smiled faintly. No, that answer surprised her. Then why proceed? He folded his arms. The distant stars glimmered beyond the station hull. Because if there's even a small chance this helps people someday, somebody has to go first. For the first time that evening, Dr. Vera Solis had no response. Outside the chamber, the countdown continued its silent march toward zero. Across the galaxy, billions waited for history to begin. None of them knew that before the next cycle ended, the experiment would produce a signal no civilization had ever seen before. The countdown on the display ticked closer to zero. Ethan Carter leaned against the cold metal railing, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths despite the knowledge of what was about to occur. Nanofluid tubes hissed softly as they connected to ports along his arms and neck. Each connection emitted a faint hum, a sound almost musical against the backdrop of the silent observation chamber. Dr. Vera Solis hovered near the main console, her hands moving with precision over the interface. Light refracted across her crystalline fingernails, reflecting data streams in ever-shifting patterns across the room. Ethan followed her movements with a mixture of fascination and trust. Despite the advanced technology, she maintained a human-like attentiveness in her eyes, a reminder that even in a galaxy of precision, intuition mattered. A soft chime signaled the initiation of the first phase. The nanofluid began to circulate, a silvery glow tracing invisible paths through Ethan's veins. Sensors displayed vital signs in real time. Heart rate steady, 72 beats per minute. Blood oxygen level at 98%. Neural activity within normal ranges. Yet there was an anomaly. Small fluctuations in the nanofluid's composition that did not match any recorded patterns. Vera noticed them instantly, her fingers hovering over the console. "Ethan, your fluid is reacting faster than anticipated," she said, her voice calm yet tinged with curiosity. "It appears to be adapting to your physiology rather than the other way around." Ethan shifted in the chair, the sensation strange yet not uncomfortable. "Feels like it is learning me," he said quietly. The scientist nodded, her expression unreadable. For centuries, her species had mastered biological adaptation, but humans had always been unpredictable. Ethan's presence, his biological signature, seemed to challenge even the most advanced models. Outside the observation window, stars streaked past the station in silent motion. Far below, the swirling storms of Naxxir reflected off the hull, painting the chamber in shifting shades of blue and silver. The countdown reached 10 seconds. A deep breath. Vera checked the final readouts, then nodded once. Ethan straightened, focusing on the glass before him. 0. The display shifted to indicate full integration. The nanofluid now coursed through his system entirely, and the chamber lights dimmed momentarily as auxiliary power redistributed. Sensors picked up subtle electrical impulses traveling at unprecedented speed through his nervous system. Reflex tests triggered automatically. Ethan's hand moved to intercept a small object dropped from the console, catching it effortlessly before it hit the floor. The data streamed rapidly to Vera's display, showing rates of adaptation far beyond predictive algorithms. She stepped back, a rare sign of astonishment crossing her face. The nanofluid was not just sustaining him. It was enhancing communication between his biological and synthetic systems. Ethan flexed his fingers, feeling the micro-adjustments the fluid made in real time. "I am still here," he said, a smile forming despite the sterile environment. "Still me." Vera allowed herself a small nod, recording every moment, her mind already racing through the implications. This was not merely a survival experiment. It was a demonstration of human adaptability against impossible odds. Ethan exhaled, feeling the hum of the station through his feet. Somewhere deep within the fluid, unseen calculations were running, integrating and optimizing, yet always respecting his decisions, his impulses. It was as if the nanofluid acknowledged the human element, a variable no machine had ever truly mastered. Outside, billions of eyes across the galaxy followed every metric, every twitch of muscle, every flicker of thought. And yet, inside the chamber, it was quiet enough to hear Ethan's heartbeat echo against the metallic walls, steady, alive, human. The sensors across the chamber continued to hum as streams of light traced the pathways of nanofluid within Ethan Carter. Every pulse of his heart seemed to carry new data, and yet he felt no discomfort, only a strange sensation of connectedness. The fluid was not just circulating, it was mapping his biology, predicting subtle changes in muscle tension, neural firing, and metabolic adjustments. Dr. Vera Solis hovered near the control panel, her eyes reflecting the streams of information cascading across her display. She tilted her head, noticing patterns in the nanofluid that even the most advanced predictive algorithms had failed to detect. Ethan shifted in the chair, flexing his fingers, and observed a micro-adjustment in the fluid as it aligned with his movements. "It is learning from you as you move," Vera said softly, her voice carrying more awe than curiosity now. Ethan nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the glass window looking out over the planet Naxxir. Beyond the station, storm clouds swirled in the upper atmosphere, creating a shifting tapestry of light and shadow. "Feels like it understands more than anyone expected," he said. Vera did not answer immediately, her attention fixed on a small fluctuation in the readouts. The nanofluid exhibited an unexpected pattern, generating a signal in a frequency that had no reference in any known communication database. Ethan's brow furrowed. "That signal, Is it supposed to be there? He asked. Vera adjusted the display, enlarging the visualized waveform. It is unprecedented, she admitted. We have never observed anything like it in controlled trials. Your human physiology is interacting with the nanofluid in a way that is creating a unique signature. Ethan exhaled, feeling a rush of both excitement and responsibility. Across the chamber, the automated reflex tests began again. A small drone released a micro-weight from the console, and Ethan's hand caught it smoothly, his movements measured, deliberate. The fluid inside him adjusted instantaneously, providing micro-corrections, yet never overriding his decision. Vera leaned closer to the console, her eyes scanning every metric. It is not just adapting. It is making choices within the parameters we never programmed. It is emulating decision-making rather than simple reaction. Ethan turned his head to watch her, seeing her astonishment mirrored in the reflection of the chamber lights. So, it is learning, but it respects me, he said quietly. It is not just a tool. It is responding to my intent. Vera nodded, a rare smile crossing her face. She had spent her career analyzing adaptive technologies, and nothing had prepared her for this. The human element, the unpredictable factor, was rewriting the rules of nanofluid integration. Outside the chamber, across the observation decks and virtual feeds, billions of viewers watched silently. They saw a man who should have been dead, moving with precision, alive and fully functional. They did not know that each subtle motion, each controlled gesture, was a demonstration of human ingenuity, adaptability, and intuition, qualities that no machine, no matter how advanced, could replicate fully. Ethan flexed his toes inside the reinforced footwear of the chair, feeling micro-adjustments in muscle tension, neural response, and reflex pathways. The nanofluid was anticipating, compensating, and yet it always deferred to his conscious choice. It is more than survival, he said, almost to himself. It is cooperation. Vera recorded every frame, every readout, understanding that this moment would redefine the relationship between human biology and synthetic enhancement. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as a soft chime indicated the completion of Phase 2. Ethan remained seated, calm, aware that the next stage would challenge both his endurance and his judgment. Outside, Naxxer's storms raged silently against the hull, a reminder that the universe continued on, indifferent to the extraordinary events unfolding within the observation chamber. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, sensing the hum of the station, the pulse of the nanofluid, and the quiet acknowledgement that, against all predictions, he was not only alive but thriving, the first human to navigate a path no other species had ever traversed. 3 hours after integration, the first real anomaly appeared. It did not arrive with alarms or flashing warnings. It began as a number that refused to make sense. Dr. Vera Solis stared at the central display while streams of data flowed across the transparent screen. The nanofluid inside Ethan Carter was consuming energy. That part was expected. What was not expected was the source. According to every sensor aboard Helios 9, the fluid was drawing microscopic amounts of power from nearby electronic systems without creating measurable disruption. The process was so efficient that most monitoring software ignored it completely. Ethan noticed her expression immediately. That look usually means something interesting happened. Vera enlarged the readout. Silver lines spread across the display like branches on a tree. The nanofluid is evolving. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Evolving sounds like a word scientists use when they do not know what is happening. To his surprise, she nodded. That is an accurate assessment. The chamber remained quiet except for the low hum of environmental systems. Beyond the observation glass, research teams hurried between consoles. News networks across dozens of worlds continued broadcasting updates. What had begun as a controlled experiment was rapidly becoming the most watched scientific event in modern history. Ethan stood and stretched his arms. He felt different now. Not stronger exactly. More aware. The temperature of the room registered in his mind before he consciously noticed it. The vibration of distant machinery traveled through the floor and reached him as subtle patterns. Even the circulation fans hidden behind the walls seemed easier to locate. It was as though his senses had gained a layer of clarity. My hearing is better, he said, and I can feel things I could not before. Vera immediately recorded the observation. Enhanced sensory integration. Another unpredicted adaptation. Ethan walked toward the observation window. Naxxer filled half the horizon beyond the station. Massive storms rotated across the planet's atmosphere. Blue lightning flashed silently within towering clouds hundreds of miles tall. For a moment, he simply watched. Then something strange happened. A sequence of symbols appeared in his mind. Not words, not images, patterns, brief flashes of geometry. They vanished almost instantly. Ethan frowned. Vera. Her attention shifted immediately. What is it? I just saw something. Every scientist within hearing distance froze. Describe it. Ethan struggled to find the right language. Shapes. Mathematical shapes. Like a puzzle I almost understood. Vera checked every neural scan available. The results only deepened the mystery. Activity across Ethan's brain had increased, but not randomly. Entire regions were synchronizing in ways previously thought impossible. The nanofluid was not forcing changes. It was creating connections, new pathways, new possibilities. Then another alert appeared. This time, every monitor in the chamber detected it simultaneously. A signal. The same unknown frequency discovered earlier had returned. Only now it was stronger. Far stronger. Across Helios, 9, communication arrays automatically focused on the source. Engineers searched external transmitters. Security teams scanned nearby vessels. Astronomical sensors swept surrounding space. Nothing matched. The signal was not coming from outside the station. It was coming from Ethan. Silence settled across the control room. Vera stared at the display. The signal carried information. Organized information. Structured sequences repeating with precise timing. It resembled a message. Ethan felt a chill run through him. Not fear. Anticipation. Somewhere deep inside the nanofluid, billions of microscopic systems were working together toward a purpose nobody understood. The signal repeated once more. Longer this time. More complex. Vera looked at Ethan with growing concern and fascination. We may have made a discovery far larger than adaptive nanotechnology. Ethan turned toward the stars beyond the glass. The strange patterns flickered again at the edge of his thoughts. This time they lingered for a second longer. Long enough for him to recognize one unsettling fact. Whatever was communicating through the nanofluid already knew he was listening. The signal repeated every 47 seconds. Not once did it deviate from its timing. Not once did it lose synchronization. For hours after the anomaly was discovered, Helios, 9 had transformed from a research station into the center of the scientific world. Entire laboratories across the galaxy were now connected to the station's data feeds. Mathematicians, physicists, linguists, and artificial intelligence specialists all searched for answers. None found any. Ethan Carter sat in a quieter section of the facility overlooking the station's outer ring. For the first time since the experiment began, he was away from the observation chamber. The room was dimly lit, illuminated by soft blue panels embedded in the walls. Beyond the reinforced glass, stars stretched endlessly across the darkness. Naxxor rotated below like a giant sapphire surrounded by silver mist. The silence felt strange after hours of attention. Ethan wrapped both hands around a steaming mug of coffee and stared out the window. The scent reminded him of Earth. Real coffee, not station-synthesized substitutes. One of the technicians had somehow found an authentic bag from a Terran shipment. The gesture made him smile. Across from him sat Dr. Vera Solis. Her tablet rested untouched beside her. For the first time since Ethan had met her, she was not studying data. She was simply watching the stars. "You are avoiding the reports," Ethan observed. Vera tilted her head slightly. "I am attempting a human practice." "Which one?" "Thinking without a screen." Ethan laughed softly. "Good luck with that." The scientist surprised him with a faint smile. During the past several hours, something had changed between them. The experiment had begun with Ethan as a subject and Vera as an observer. That distinction no longer felt accurate. They were facing the unknown together now. Partners in a mystery neither understood. The signal continued to pulse somewhere inside him. He could not hear it directly, yet he felt its presence, like distant music behind a wall. "Do you ever wonder why humans make choices that do not benefit them?" Vera suddenly asked. Ethan blinked. "That is a pretty broad question. Yet you volunteered knowing the likely outcome." She folded her hands together. "Most species optimize survival. Humans frequently choose purpose instead." Ethan considered the question for a moment. Outside the window, a cargo vessel drifted past the station's outer framework. Its engines glowed softly against the darkness. "Maybe survival is not the point," he finally said. "Maybe what matters is what you do while you are here." Vera looked toward the stars again. "That answer is statistically inefficient." And yet you asked. For a moment neither spoke. The station hummed around them. Air recyclers whispered behind the walls. Tiny indicator lights blinked steadily across the room. Then Ethan froze. The coffee mug stopped halfway to his lips. Another pattern flashed through his thoughts. Stronger this time. Not random shapes. Not abstract geometry. Coordinates. His pulse quickened. Vera noticed immediately. What happened? Ethan slowly placed the mug down. I saw something again. The scientist activated her tablet at once. Describe it. Ethan closed his eyes. The image remained surprisingly clear. Streams of numbers arranged in precise sequences. Star maps. Distances. Vectors. Locations. I think it was a set of coordinates. Vera's expression sharpened instantly. Coordinates to where? I do not know. Ethan opened his eyes and looked toward the darkness beyond the glass. The strange certainty remained. Somewhere out there, among billions of stars, the signal was pointing toward something. Something specific. Something waiting. Before either of them could speak again, every display screen in the room activated simultaneously. A single line of text appeared across each monitor. No known system had authorized the transmission. No station network had generated the message. Yet there it was, glowing silently against black screens throughout Helios 9. Search origin point. For the next 6 hours, Helios 9 stopped behaving like a research station and started behaving like an archaeological expedition. Every scientific team aboard focused on a single objective: find the origin point. The mysterious message remained frozen across hundreds of displays throughout the facility. Search origin point. No known operating system claimed responsibility. No external signal had penetrated the station's security architecture. The message had simply appeared. Ethan Carter stood inside the primary analysis chamber beside Dr. Vera Solis as holographic star maps filled the air around them. Thousands of glowing points floated in three-dimensional space. Entire sectors of explored territory stretched across the room like rivers of light. The coordinates Ethan had described were being compared against every known catalog in the galactic database. Colony worlds, mining stations, ancient ruins, navigation beacons. Nothing matched. There should be something there, Vera said quietly. Every coordinate system references a physical location. Ethan studied the projection. The strange certainty remained inside his mind. He could not explain it. He simply knew the coordinates mattered. Maybe we are looking at the wrong map. Vera glanced toward him. Explain. Ethan shrugged. Everybody assumes this signal comes from something we already know. What if it does not? The scientist stared at him for several seconds before turning back toward the display. New calculations immediately appeared. Unknown regions. Unmapped sectors. Areas beyond established exploration routes. Suddenly the coordinates aligned. A silence spread across the chamber. One location remained highlighted. A star system near the outer boundary of recorded space. No colonies. No trade routes. No known strategic value. Just a lonely star orbiting in darkness nearly 40,000 light-years from the nearest population center. Vera's eyes widened slightly. That system was surveyed once. What did they find? Ethan asked. Nothing. The answer somehow made the discovery even more unsettling. Moments later, archived reports appeared on the main display. A survey vessel had passed through the region almost 2 centuries earlier. The crew recorded unusual electromagnetic interference. Sensor failures. Navigation disruptions. The mission ended early. Funding disappeared. No follow-up expedition was ever authorized. Ethan felt the now familiar sensation ripple through his thoughts. Patterns. Geometry. Connections. The signal inside him grew stronger the closer they examined the system. It was almost as if something was responding. Vera. She turned immediately. The signal knows we found it. The statement sounded impossible. Yet neither of them laughed. Too many impossible things had already happened. Across the chamber, another alert appeared. Then another. Researchers began exchanging nervous glances. Energy readings from the nanofluid inside Ethan were increasing again. Not dangerously. Deliberately. Every pulse matched activity originating from the distant star system. The synchronization was exact. Vera watched the numbers climb. This is no longer a passive transmission. Ethan looked toward the holographic star hanging in the center of the room. The lonely system glowed softly against the darkness surrounding it. For reasons he could not explain, it felt familiar. Not familiar in memory. Familiar in purpose. As though a question asked long ago was finally receiving an answer. Then the station lights flickered. Just once. Every display froze. Every hologram vanished. For 2 seconds, the entire facility became silent. When power stabilized, a new message appeared across the central screen. This one contained only 4 words. "We have found you." Nobody in the chamber spoke. Because for the first time since the experiment began, the message no longer felt like a machine trying to communicate. It felt like someone waiting for a reply. No one slept on Helios 9 that cycle. The message remained displayed across secured archives, navigation systems, research terminals, and communication relays. Engineers disconnected hardware. The words returned. They isolated networks. The words returned. They replaced entire operating cores. The words returned. "We have found you." By morning, the station had accepted a possibility that would have sounded absurd only 24 hours earlier. Something beyond known civilization was communicating through the nanofluid. Ethan Carter stood inside the primary command center overlooking a wall of holographic displays. Hundreds of scientists worked below him. Their voices blended into a low murmur of calculations and theories. Yet the most important screen in the room showed only one thing: the distant star system hidden near the edge of explored space. Dr. Vera Solis joined him carrying a stack of fresh reports. Her normally composed expression looked strained. "The situation is escalating," she said. Ethan accepted one of the displays. "How bad?" 37 major research facilities have reported unexplained nanotechnology synchronization events. Ethan frowned. Synchronization? Vera activated a chart. Identical energy signatures appeared across dozens of worlds. Nanomedical systems are beginning to exchange information without authorization. Nothing dangerous, nothing destructive, but they are communicating. A chill ran through Ethan, like they are part of the same network. Exactly. For centuries, nanotechnology had operated as isolated tools, independent systems serving individual purposes. Now something was linking them together. Across the galaxy, the implications were staggering. Ethan turned toward the observation window. Naxur drifted below the station, silent and beautiful beneath layers of blue clouds. "Whatever is out there," he said quietly, "it is waking up." Vera did not disagree. A sudden alert echoed through the command center. Every conversation stopped instantly. New data flooded the displays. The distant star system had changed. Long-range telescopes were detecting energy emissions, not random bursts. Structured activity. The star itself appeared to be responding. Ethan watched as streams of information filled the air around him. Patterns emerged. Geometric alignments. Mathematical sequences. Then one scientist spoke the words nobody expected to hear. "The signal is answering our observations." Silence followed. The room felt smaller, colder. Ethan looked at the numbers and realized what the scientist meant. Every time Helios 9 focused additional sensors on the system, the emissions adjusted. Every new scan produced a corresponding response. It was not passive. It was aware. Vera folded her arms tightly. "We believed we were investigating a mystery." Her voice was barely above a whisper. Instead, the mystery has been observing us. Ethan felt the familiar pulse within the nanofluid. Stronger than ever. The strange patterns no longer arrived as flashes. They lingered. He could almost understand them now. Almost. Then another transmission appeared. Unlike previous messages, this one emerged directly through the command center display without disrupting station systems. White letters formed slowly against a black background. The room held its breath. Ethan stared at the screen as the message completed itself. "Prepare for contact." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because for the first time since the experiment began, the future no longer felt uncertain. It felt scheduled. The station lights dimmed as Helios 9 shifted into a state of readiness. Ethan Carter stood in the primary chamber, watching the holographic display of the distant star system, now glowing with subtle, pulsing energy that seemed to resonate in harmony with his own heartbeat. Dr. Vera Solis moved alongside him, her eyes reflecting both caution and wonder. "They are waiting for us," she said quietly. Ethan nodded, feeling the nanofluid inside him respond almost instantly. A warmth spread through his veins, not heat, but awareness. The microscopic systems inside were arranging themselves in anticipation, enhancing his reflexes and sharpening his perception. Across the chamber, scientists and technicians moved with calculated precision, but their voices were hushed, as if aware that any sound could disturb the silent dialogue unfolding between a human and the unknown. Ethan focused on the star, tracing its orbit, its subtle shifts, and the data cascading around it. Something about the pattern seemed deliberate. A rhythm, not chaotic, not random. It is communicating through more than energy, Ethan murmured. Vera leaned closer. Through cognition, she added. Through adaptation. It mirrors the human response. For a moment, neither spoke. The room was still except for the soft hum of environmental controls and the faint whir of auxiliary processors. Then a subtle vibration passed through the chamber floor. Ethan felt it in his feet, the nanofluid translating it into precise sensory feedback. His eyes flicked to the monitors. Every instrument showed an increase in activity, but there was no hazard, only coordination. It was as if the distant system was aware of every observer, every action, every decision within Helios 9. Ethan lifted a hand, testing the connection. The nanofluid responded instantly, amplifying the signal back along the network, sending feedback that the system seemed to accept. Vera's eyes widened. You are not just receiving. You are participating. Ethan exhaled slowly. Then we are not alone in this interaction. A quiet tension filled the chamber. The signal pulsed again, brighter and more defined, forming complex sequences in the holographic display. Patterns that could not be calculated by any known algorithm. Ethan studied them, recognizing shapes and structures that felt almost biological. The realization hit him. The nanofluid had learned not only to adapt, but to translate his cognition into a language the distant system understood. Vera tapped her console rapidly, recording and cross-referencing each sequence. This is unprecedented. The system is engaging with a human mind as a partner. Ethan walked to the observation window, watching Naxxer rotate below, the storms shifting and refracting light through the station hall. The station itself seemed alive, resonating in sync with the distant pulses. They are not hostile, he said. They are curious, and they understand cooperation. Vera glanced at him, her tone almost reverent. Which means they have already predicted our next actions and are responding accordingly. Ethan's chest tightened with anticipation, not fear. For the first time, he felt the full responsibility of the moment. Whatever awaited them at the coordinates was not an accident. It was a test, an invitation. And for the first time since the experiment began, the human variable, their unpredictable capacity for judgment, for choice, for intent, was the key to bridging the gap between known space and the unknown. A final pulse radiated through the station, and the holographic star map shimmered, highlighting a path from Helios 9 to the distant system, as if extending a hand through 40,000 light-years of darkness. Ethan stepped forward, understanding that the next move, guided by human insight and the nanofluid's adaptation, would determine the first true contact of its kind. The launch toward the distant system never happened. It did not need to. 12 hours after the path appeared across the star map, every major observatory in known space detected the same phenomenon. The lonely star at the edge of the galaxy brightened. Not dramatically, not dangerously, just enough for instruments to notice. Then a second signal emerged. This one was not aimed at Ethan Carter. It was aimed at everyone. Across thousands of worlds, communication arrays received the same transmission simultaneously. Scientists expected equations. Governments expected demands. Military analysts expected threats. Instead, the message contained a single archive. Inside were millions of years of recorded knowledge. Navigation methods, medical breakthroughs, energy systems, historical records from civilizations that no longer existed. The archive was not a weapon. It was a library. Helios 9 fell silent as researchers explored the impossible gift. Dr. Vera Solis stood beside Ethan in the observation chamber where the experiment had begun. The blue glow of Naxxer reflected across the glass. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Vera broke the silence. We spent centuries believing advanced civilizations would dominate younger species. Ethan folded his arms and looked toward the stars. Looks like they had a different idea. The nanofluid inside him pulsed gently. The strange pressure he had carried for days was fading. The patterns were becoming quieter. Whatever connection had formed was reaching its conclusion. Across the station, celebrations had already begun. News networks called it the greatest discovery in recorded history. Universities suspended normal operations to study the archive. Rival governments declared temporary cooperation agreements. Entire industries prepared for changes that would reshape civilization. Yet Ethan found himself thinking about something much simpler. A question. Why him? Why a human? Why had the signal ignored countless advanced systems and chosen someone from Earth? As if responding to the thought, the final transmission arrived. Every display aboard Helios 9 illuminated at once. White letters appeared against a black background. No alarms sounded. No systems failed. The station simply grew quiet enough for people to read. This network was created to find minds capable of guiding power with compassion. The message continued. Countless species achieved intelligence. Countless species mastered technology. Few learned to value others above themselves. Ethan stared at the screen. The words felt strangely personal. Then came the final line. Humanity qualified. Tears filled the eyes of more than one scientist in the chamber. Vera lowered her gaze briefly before looking back toward the stars. For once, she seemed unable to find a logical response. Ethan smiled softly. Not because humanity had been declared superior. Not because Earth had received recognition. But because the galaxy had spent centuries searching for greater machines, while something older and wiser had been searching for character. The displays slowly faded. The signal disappeared. The connection ended. Deep within his body, the nanofluid settled into silence. Beyond the station windows, the distant star returned to its ordinary brightness. The mystery was gone. The gift remained. Ethan stood beside Vera and watched the stars without speaking. Somewhere in the darkness, an ancient civilization had completed its final experiment. And the result had not been a perfect technology. It had been a simple truth. In a galaxy filled with intelligence, the rarest resource had always been mercy.